she screamed. "Turn that thing off right now!" as the snowblower choked and died in front of my driveway. Red and blue lights flashed behind her, not real cops, just an HOA SUV with magnets slapped on the doors. My kids were watching from the window, coats already on, school canceled, road buried. Karen stepped closer and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "You are blocking a community easement. This machine is illegal." I looked down at the cord she had just yanked from the outlet, then back at her face. Calm. Too calm for someone whose truck was already hooked to a tow cable behind me. She smiled like she had won. "You don't clear snow unless we approve it," she said. The tow driver revved his engine. My neighbor whispered, "Just let it go." I didn't. I checked my phone instead. Because the easement she was waving around wasn't the one she thought she owned, and the deal behind it was about to end forever. One thought hit hard as the snow kept falling. She shut down my snowblower, but she just powered up something she couldn't stop. Karen snapped her fingers at the tow driver. "Take it," she said, pointing at my truck like it was trash. The cable tightened and my kids started banging on the glass, yelling my name. I raised my hand so they'd stop. That made her laugh. "See? He knows he lost," she said to the small crowd forming in the snow. Then she leaned in close and whispered, "You signed an easement deal. That means we own this road. You work for us now." I stepped back and let her talk. She didn't notice my phone was still recording. She didn't notice the words she used. "Own work for us now." The tow truck lifted my tires off the ground and she shouted, "This is what happens when you ignore HOA rules." That's when a second SUV pulled in and stopped hard. Not HOA real plates. A man stepped out, older, calm, and looked at the scene like he'd seen this mess before. Karen rolled her eyes and said, "Great, more witnesses." She didn't know him. She didn't know he was the county land officer who signed the easement agreement 10 years ago. And she definitely didn't know he was my wife's uncle, and the reason that deal had a kill switch written into it. He walked past Karen like she wasn't even there and asked me one question, real quiet. "Did they shut down your equipment?" I nodded and glanced at the snowblower sitting dead by the fence, its fuel line cut clean. Karen jumped in fast. "He damaged community property and refused to help during an emergency," she said, waving her HOA badge like it was law. The man finally looked at her. "Emergency?" he asked. She smiled. "Snowstorm. Family's trapped." And he said no. My kids opened the door then, coats half on, scared. Karen saw them and pointed. "That's neglect," she said loud. "I'll add that to the report." That's when the tow driver froze. The man pulled out a folder, thick and old, and tapped it against his palm. "This easement lets the HOA pass through," he said slowly. "It does not let you disable equipment, tow private vehicles, or give orders." Karen laughed. "Read the fine print," she said. He nodded. "I did. Last night, after I got a call saying you shut down snow removal." The wind picked up and snow hit her face. She wiped it off, still smiling. "So what?" she said. "What are you gonna do?" He turned to me and said, clear as day, "If they interfere with access or safety, you can cancel the easement immediately." Karen's smile dropped for half a second. Then she said, "Hi, he won't. He needs us." I looked at my kids, then at the tow truck holding my truck in the air, and said the line she didn't expect. "I already did." Karen's face went pale. "You can't do that," she said, stepping closer like volume could fix it. The tow driver slowly lowered my truck back onto the ground. He didn't even look at her. Phones were out now, neighbors whispering, snow still falling hard. Karen turned to the crowd and shouted, "He's lying! This land belongs to the community." That's when the man opened the folder and held it up so everyone could see the seal. "This land was never yours," he said. "The road, the path, the snow access, all allowed by permission, and that permission is gone." Karen's voice cracked. "You can't just trap people like this," he replied calm. "You trapped yourself." She tried one last move. She pulled out her phone and said, "I'm calling the police." I nodded. "Please do." 10 minutes later, real police lights cut through the snow. Karen rushed to them first, talking fast, pointing at me like I was dangerous. One officer asked her for ID. Another asked me whose land this was. I handed over the papers. The officer read one page, then another. then looked up at Karen. "Ma'am," he said, "you're standing on private property, and you ordered a tow without authority." The silence after that was loud. Karen tried to step back, but slipped in the snow and fell hard. No one helped her up. The officer asked me if I wanted to press charges for trespass and equipment damage. I looked at my kids, watching from the door, and said, "Yes." Karen started crying, saying she was just doing her job. The officer shook his head. "Your job doesn't let you act like a landlord." As they walked her to the car, someone in the crowd whispered the line that spread fast through the neighborhood. She thought she owned the road. Turns out she didn't even belong on it. The snow kept falling, but everything felt lighter. The police drove off with Karen quiet in the back seat, and the crowd slowly broke apart. A few neighbors nodded at me, different now, like they finally saw who was really wrong. The tow driver handed me the keys and said, "Sorry, man." "I didn't know," I told him. Most people didn't. He cleared my driveway anyway, free, before leaving. Inside, my kids wrapped their arms around me. My wife held my hand and smiled, calm like she always is when things finally make sense. That night, power came back on, heat filled the house, and the road stayed empty. No HOA trucks, no threats, just quiet snow. My phone buzzed once. A message from the county, easement termination approved. Effective immediately. The next morning, sunlight hit fresh snow like nothing bad had ever happened. A new notice was posted at the community gate. Not from the HOA, from the county. Private land, no unauthorized access. People stopped and stared. Some turned around. Some took pictures. I stood there with my coffee and thought about one thing my dad used to say. Freedom feels small until someone tries to take it.